child. Because the fairies would come and take the child away and replace it with one of their own. Perhaps it was one of their own that had problems anyway, it was deformed of some sort, or perhaps it was one that they didn't like and they leave behind with a spell, or perhaps in fact it was a bit of bog oak that had been cast in a spell and made look like a baby. They couldn't tell, but all they knew was that Mrs. Sullivan's child was not right and couldn't possibly be hers anymore. So there were an awful lot of antidotes for these type of things. Mostly the child wouldn't survive them though, only on the hope that the fairies would get back the baby, such as leaving the child out in the woods until the baby returned, or shoving it into the fire. That was a good one. Make sure the fairy would melt and then the child would return. Sticking a hot poker down its, burning off its nose, and there was a number of these little antidotes that Mr. Sullivan wasn't overly proud wanting to do. So one day, a woman came, Ella Leah was her name. I didn't look at my notes. Ella Leah, Grey Ellen, which she was known as. And Grey Ellen knew the ways and the turns and the little signs and the antidotes, and if you had a burn she'd know what to rub on it, and if you needed ointment for your limbs if you were old she'd be able to make it up for you, and if you needed to know what was happening tomorrow she might give you a guess that would be more accurate than the person next to you. So Grey Ellen came to the door one day and she said, "Oh, Mr. Sullivan, you don't look very happy. You've sadness on you." And Mrs. Sullivan said, "I have more than sadness on me. I have a child that's been, well, you know what, I'll say no more till you judge what it is, Grey Ellen, because you know more than most." And Grey Ellen came in and she peered around the corner and she sniffed the air and she licked her lips. She tested the air. She said, "There's a fairy in your house for sure." And she looked in over the cot. She said, "That's definitely a fairy. Now look, I'll tell you what you do. You'll do this and follow my instructions perfectly, and your baby will be returned, I promise." So she left in the following morning. Mrs. Sullivan followed her orders and she began cracking eggs and throwing the eggs out and putting the eggshells into a pot of boiling water in full sight of her baby in the cot. And she was getting to the 7th, cracking in, the 8th, cracking and throwing in, and the 9th, cracking and throwing in, and then the 10th, and cracking and throwing in. And she was stirring them just as she had been told, thrice round one way and 6 times the other, and cracking the 11th and throwing the 11th. And finally she cracked the 12th egg and threw in the egg shells with a thrice stir this way and a 6 stirs that way, until out of the cot, what did she hear? Only, "What are you doing, Mammy?" The sound of an old man's voice peering out. "What is it you're doing, Mammy?" "Oh, is it you want to know what I'm doing, is it, the gossip?" "Yes, Mammy, what are you doing?" And Mrs. O'Sullivan was shocked because she was now confirmed that this indeed had to be one of the fairies. And eventually she said, "Well, Gossip, I'm doing what I was told to do. I'm making a beautiful brewery of eggshells, in fact." And the baby laughed aloud. He said, "Of all of the thousands of years I've been in this Ireland, I've never once seen such a foolish thing as that, as a brewery of eggshells." Thousands of years, she thought. That's definitely not right. So, as Grey Ellen had instructed her, she'd been heating a poker in the fire as soon as she heard the baby caw out like that. But it was taking longer and longer to heat up, because what she was to do next was to ram the red hot poker down the baby's throat, and instantly the baby would be returned. She was promised this, but she was so terrified and so mortified, and she was afraid that this devil behind her might turn into something more gruesome or cast a spell on her, and she was worried and she was worried, and by the time it was red she turned and she ran towards the baby, and she dropped the red poker and it slid out from under her hand, and she looked up and she found that the baby was gone. And when she looked at the doorway, her own baby had been returned, and it was crying softly. She picked it up, and there was no greyness or tarry skin or sunken eyes or horrible laugh. And she brought it back. She put it to sleep. And that's the story of Mrs. Sullivan.